Hey everybody, Comic Crack. This is the last time I'm going to attempt this little video. I've tried it now, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, and there just seems to be, I've just been plagued with issues. I had talked about it a little while ago now, about doing a NoBrow video. So tonight I was going to, like I said, attempt this one last time. But before I start in there, one of the last videos I did was I'd gotten some mail, and the last place was from Traditional Comics. And Traditional Comics is Benjamin Mara's company, and I had bought the first 4 issues of a series of his called Night Business. So here's a look at those books again. Hopefully that's picking it up for you there. So there's number 1. There's number 2. There's number 3. And finally, number 4. So, if you're a fan of 80s movies, if you're a fan of like the Jean-Claude Van Damme type of movies, if you're a fan of, I don't know if anybody's seen, I think it's Abel Ferreira, his Ms. 45. I'd say this is right along those lines. It's that style of kind of 80s trash slash slasher movie, and I think it really holds it really holds the time really well, incredibly well. Like his style of art, the whole mood of the book is completely 80s. I hated the 80s. I grew up through the 80s. I fucking hated the 80s, but I do really like this book. I really like his art. I really like the fact that the proportions aren't necessarily what would be considered the ideal proportions if you're drawing people. They're definitely stylized and possibly a little naive maybe, but I like that quality in the art. I like that kind of outsider feel to the book. I won't open it up, but I really dug the series. I really got a kick out of it. It's not claiming to be anything that it's not. It's just kind of good trashy fun. The one thing that kind of put it over the top for me as far as the book went was the fact of, I believe it's in the end of issue 2 and then starts in issue 3, where basically there's this slasher, there's this stalker who's going around and attacking these strippers and killing them. The 2 main male characters have this business that's kind of the model agency for all these women, and they kind of book them out to these clubs. Where, assuming, I mean, we don't have any clues really yet to who this killer is, assuming that the killer has seen them perform and then stalks them and kills them afterwards. One of the women doesn't die, and she dons the motorcycle helmet and starts doing kind of, like I said, the Ms. 45. She's going to take care of the city herself and try to get this guy herself, and through the time that we see her, she rescues or helps a lot of women in distress from various thugs and just general assholes. So there's that kind of enjoyment, that kind of vicarious thrill as far as seeing people get their comeuppance, right? Which is always, I think, especially in that kind of exploitation genre of movie, there really is that theme that runs through a lot of it, that idea of a group of people or somebody getting mistreated to a point where they just have had enough, and then they kind of take the law into their own hands and go out and give the people their comeuppance. So there's always a nice kind of closing as far as like, it's horrible what happened to this person, but they got revenge, that, you know. And so, like I said, it's dealing with those tropes. It's not pushing any boundaries. It's not taking a unique look at things from a different angle. So far, none of that. The only bad thing that I would say about it was the art in issue 4 seemed to really drop drastically. Now, one of the things I did notice was, I think I said it in that previous video, that in all of the issues it had the same date or month and year, or possibly just year. I can't remember my exact talk about it, but that all these issues came out in 1 year. I've since learned that that's incorrect. The first 2 issues that I have are reprints. So it leads me to believe that maybe there was something with the timing of the 4th book coming out. He wanted it to coincide with a reissue or a reprint of issues 1 and 2, that maybe there was a little more rush, because I mean, he's not exactly dealing with a monthly schedule and subscriptions and things. It's a very small company, and you know, he just kind of puts out what he wants when he wants. But it's just, it was such a difference that for me it was really, really noticeable. So it just leads me to believe that there was something going on, and I was a bit disappointed in that. And I hope in issue 5, because it's still, I'm assuming it's still going on. He hasn't said as much on the site, but it's still, the 4th book didn't tie anything up. I hope it picks back up again for the 5th. It's definitely a series I'm going to keep up with, and Mara is somebody I'd like to read some more of. He's got a few more series available on his site, and like I'd said before, Fantagraphics sometime this year is supposed to be putting out a collection of some of his work too, so I'd be jumping on that. So yeah, there you have it. There's the Night Business right there. So the next thing I guess we'll do is, let me just get my notes here. I've made myself some notes, so if you see me referring, that's all that it is. NoBrow is a publisher from the UK. We've been around since kind of the late 2000s, I believe. They do a lot of anthologies. They have a biannual journal of anthologies, the NoBrow magazine. I call it the magazine. They have a couple of different series. One that I'll be talking a little bit about is their 17 by 23 series. They've got some books that are more comic form. They've got some hardcover publications. They've got graphic novels, etc., etc. So they release a lot of different formats. They release a lot of books from artists all over the world. So even though they're UK based and they do have a fairly big UK roster, there's people from all over, including a couple of Canadians as well. One that you've heard me talk about numerous times, Michael DeForge. He's done some work with them. And how I came to find them, McNally Robinson is a bookstore in town that I've always been a fan of, and I've been a fan of them because their focus of their store has always been wider. Their competition has been Chapters, that style of bookstore. There's been incarnations in that. Kohl's, I think, was another one for a little while, and etc. So those type of stores were always, if I was ever in some other world where I decided I wanted to go to buy a Stephen King book, I would go to those places to buy those. I would go to McNally to discover different authors, different artists, different magazines, different, you know, whatever I was into at the time. It was just a venue that was open. The film section there has always been really good. The books on film and things like that, and art. Chapters was a place that that just never spoke to me. It was just not a place for me. I didn't find it interesting. Rarely found anything worthwhile there, except for kind of, like I said, the run-of-the-mill stuff. When we moved to this new house, it's about a 5-minute walk to the Chapters by the mall here. Kind of rediscovered Chapters and kind of scoffed at it when a special sexy lady friend wanted to go and invited me along. There's nothing at Chapters. Well, I'll come with you anyway. You know, it's a bullshit store, and why don't you want to go to this store? And I know all the cool places, and why would you want to waste your time going to the store and feel like a complete idiot because found that over the years the whole store had grown as far as their scope. Became really, really impressive as soon as I walked through the door and started looking around at books. The graphic novel section is huge, and they have a real nice focus on Marvel and DC and Image, but they have a real good focus on like independent, a lot of Canadians too, which is really nice to see. It's where I end up getting some Seth and some other guys, Chester Brown and stuff like that from them. Their whole deal with the web has been fantastic as well too, especially in Canada, getting that free shipping and how quick the books come. So really impressed with them. So I started going more and more and browsing, and a couple of the books that I'll be showing are things that I found myself repeatedly going back to and looking through when I would go to visit Chapters, until one day I finally broke down and got the graphic novel that I'll talk about in a bit. Well, why don't I start with that one? I guess it seems like a good a time as any. A graphic Cosmogony was the first book that I got from them. You can see the thickness there, little hardcover action there. Cloth spine. It's 100, as it says on the front here too, 176 pages. There's 24 artists involved in this. They each get 7 pages. The idea of it was, from what I understand, trying to tackle the concept of the beginning of everything, creation myths, creation stories, creation satire, anything to do with creation. And that's one of the things that I find appealing about these particular anthologies with NoBrow, is this umbrella topic or something to kind of coalesce everybody into a little tighter knit group. Their idea was that before words, before the written word, before the spoken word, we had pictures to communicate stories. What better way to talk about the creation of everything than through a graphic novel with artists and pictures and words. Some people take that to the next step, because there's quite a few stories in here that are completely wordless, so it is kind of like seeing a story on a cave painted wall to some degree. 7 pages. God created everything in 6 days. It took the 7th day. It was kind of loosely on that. What else did I have written down here? Yeah, that was pretty much it. So and I mean, you know, I'm sorry if I end up boring you with saying this repeatedly, but I just really feel like I need to say it about NoBrow, and I'll probably end up saying it about every single book. The care, the quality, the printing, the paper stock, everything is just, it's so well used and it's so well put together. So the other thing I should mention quickly is 2010 is when this came out. It's just so well put together and makes such an incredible piece of work to flip through and experience and read and just look at and see on your bookshelf and the whole 9 yards. They really do an incredible job. The roster of artists that they do have with them while there's quite a few different styles happening, because of the printing quality, because of the printing materials, because of the theme, because of everything, it makes it seem more like one family. You know, it really also helps get that point across, even though people are coming from all sorts of places across the globe. When I kept going back and looking through this book, this is a page that I stopped on all the time. I absolutely love the art in this short here. This is one of the wordless ones there, and the one that maybe most reminds me of that theme, a hunter and his prey, and just a story, you know, with these little more basic images. It's beautiful, really, really beautiful work, and always entertaining. And as usual, the idea with an anthology, if you don't like something, it's only going to be for a few pages and you'll get to move on to the next one. I see, and this is the thing, even though I've done this video now this is the 5th time or whatever, I still didn't have the sense to write down the prices of things. It's something that came up in the last couple of versions of this video, where I would love to kind of give you a ballpark of what the books cost, but I guess it's easy enough to go online to find out. I'll just show you a couple more images here. Hopefully it's coming up nicely enough, trying to angle it back for that light a little bit. Oh, here's some more beautiful work too. It's blew my mind. So I saw the book multiple times, finally threw down the money, bought one of the anthology magazines, got a couple for my birthday, started reading into them, just hunting down more information about them, getting a couple of more books. And now it's one of those companies that I'd love to have a huge catalog of. I'd love to just pick up everything that I can. And that isn't to say that all of it has been hits either, which we'll come to as well. But for a first introduction to the company, this is a fantastic book to pick up. Wouldn't hesitate, even if it was a bit of a heftier price tag than you're comfortable paying. Just sit and flip through it. Pick it up though and give it a shot. Highly recommended. The other one that would be highly recommended, which I'll just talk about now because we've talked about it before, was this that turned out to be a huge surprise. And I guess another mark of a quality publisher taking a chance on one of their publications from an artist that I don't know anything about, purely based on seeing the front cover and a couple of images inside, and the price being right to include it at that time with the free shipping. So impressed and taken by such surprise at how much I loved this book. Another one I wouldn't hesitate in picking up either. Just for those of you who might be watching this and have not seen the other video, there's just a sample of near the beginning inside pages there. So both of these two, and this is something that I'll say again at the end of the video, but I'll just say it now, would not hesitate to recommend these to anybody, and would easily be the two that if you had a big choice, I would easily point you to picking up either one or both of those if it was your first time buying something from NoBrow. So let's talk about the 17 by 23 series. The idea behind it was to give graphic novelists a smaller format, a little shorter time frame to tell a story, to kind of get a story across, have a little bit of constraints on their storytelling, which I think is in any sort of creative endeavor is always a good thing. Putting limitations on you can really help you grow as a artist, or in this case, artist storyteller. So this is by a guy named Ben Newman, and it's every single video I've also stuttered and stumbled on this word too, Ouroboros. And I know that I'm butchering it, but for some reason I just can't get the word out. So this and the next one I think would fall under the category of books that didn't really work for me. I can understand their idea, and I can understand, as I did when I got these were some of the early ones that I picked up too. It had NoBrow on it. It's like it was a smaller book, it was more comic size, the price point was a lot cheaper. I was jonesing to get some more NoBrow and just check them out with that, you know how it is when you first discover something, that sense of I want it all and I want it all right away. I wouldn't buy anymore, and just show you the inside flap there, which I think is pretty nice too. I wouldn't buy any more unless it was from an artist that I knew and that I really liked. It's not something that I would take a chance on again, like I did with that Robert Hunter book. I would also not maybe recommend it to people too. I don't know if this is the best place to get in. Yes, it gives you a taste of the company. Yes, it is still made with the great cardstock and the paper, and the printing is fantastic and phenomenal. I just worry that maybe the stories wouldn't work for people, and it might give them the wrong impression about the company. And I'd say that that's definitely true when you look at a book like this called Fight, about a pro wrestler, Lou, who just happens to look like the devil but's a really nice guy, wants to get out of wrestling. Nobody else wants him to leave because he's kind of their cash cow. And this is the first issue of that, and it didn't work for me. If this was maybe Johnny Ryan doing like a Fantagraphics or something, it would totally work. I think maybe it's because the things that I associate with NoBrow, and again, I mean, I have a very small portion of what they've released. My idea of NoBrow as a company doesn't really include things like this. It's a little too silly, I think, for what I expect out of a company that's going to take so much care in doing books and everything. Yeah. And again, I think that especially this book would just give you the complete wrong idea of the company, whereas the other ones would really get you right in there right away. So those are those two. We'll jump right to the last three books. So it's their kind of flagship. I've seen it. I think they still have some copies at my chapters of one of the older issues. So the NoBrow magazine with number 6, and I'll just show you the cover there so you can see what we're talking about. And then the flip side. With this volume, it was the first time that it was 120 pages. It doubled from the previous volumes. It was the first time that there was a theme introduced to the book that was proposed to each of the writers. The theme of this one is doubles or doppelgangers. So it was a couple of firsts for their line, and it's probably, which leads me to believe that it was around the time that they were finding their feet, so to speak, as far as streamlining and discovering exactly what they wanted to, whoop, sorry, did I do both of those upside down? Streamlining exactly what it was that they wanted their company and their products to be. So the idea of this, I love the oversized format of this. Again, not the cheapest things. This one will run you $24 US, because it's actually inside here, or 18 euros. So if you're Canadian now with the dollar, it's gonna run you over 30 bucks. But I think when I got it, it was roughly around the same, just because of the exchange rate. Love the oversized volume of this, and I love it especially for, the book is divided into two halves. One of the halves is 2-page illustration pieces, so just art basically, and so I love the bigger format for that reason. You can experience the art quite a bit better. And I'll just show you another couple of images to give you an idea. Maybe I'll talk about the theme a little more in a bit, or the theme idea in a little bit. I'll just show you some more of this here. We'll look at two more and then I'll show you the flip side. So the flip side is cartoons, basically comic strips, again, to do with the theme. Let's see, let's look at that one there. So there you go, and then I'll look at a couple of them on this side here. So there's Jack Teagle again, who did this fight. And let's see, here's a nice one. Okay, I think I caught it. Let's hope. I won't find out until I've edited it, but I think I heard a beep, which means that it shut off for some strange reason. I really should have this camera looked at. I don't know why it would shut off, but let's hope that I caught it. So I believe I was just about to talk about the idea of the theme in the book and show you just another page in there in NoBrow 6. While I love the idea of a theme, it's not always apparent with the individual strips or the individual illustrations, and I'm okay with that. I think that giving the creators a little more focus, again, just helps streamline them. I think it would be worse if I felt like I was beaten over the head with the theme. As far as, there's one, well, let's just go to the next one. Put this over here. The Brave New World is the theme for number 7. And again, while it's apparent in some things, in others that it's not, and I'm fine with that, because I think if I was beaten over the head with some of the themes, it would be a little much. Knowing that they have this limitation put on them is enough for me, and just to see what they can do, because for me it's not necessarily about how the artist is tackling the theme that's the kind of the joy that I get out of reading it. It's more the presentation, and it's more about the art, and it's more about the 4-color printing process and whatever other, you know, the things that are more visually appealing than as opposed to the writing or anything. So there's a look at those. This one impresses me. This silhouette art here. I love this particular few pages. So in this one, it's 60 pages of each, 15 comic artists and 30 illustrators. A couple of names in this one are Michael DeForge, Juice Swart, Gillian Tamaki, who's Canadian as well, I believe, Anders Nilsson, the guy that did Big Questions that I've talked about, and then a guy that I'm familiar with, Joseph Lambert. I only have one of his books, sadly, and it's phenomenal. I believe it's called I Will Bite You. Great, great artist Joseph Lambert is. In the middle of the books, I'll show you another. This looks like the Forge right there. In the middle of the books, you get, oh, I'll just show you this one too. This is the thing. You start leafing through, and you could stop on every single page. I could show you every single page, but we just don't have the time for that. Here we go. The middle of the book, you get on this side, you get a still, and you get the list, you get the name of the creator, and I believe it's just a website for everybody. I don't think there's any email addresses. Yeah, it looks like it's just websites where you can then discover more of their art, buy some more of their books, etc. And then on the flip side, obviously the same thing for the comic strips. You get the creators with a sample, just so it can ring a bell again once you get to that center bit. So that's pretty great. Oh hey, and the one that's the silhouette is Anders Nelson. There you go. No wonder why it appeals to me. It's just something about this guy's artwork, even though it looks nothing like Big Questions. There's just something about it, I guess, that resonates with me. So that's number 7. And finally, we'll just have a quick look at number 8. So the theme of this one is hysteria. And there's 14 comic artists in this one and 30 illustrators. So this one came out in 2013. And since it's a biannual journal, I guess that means that, you know, we'll be hearing some news about the next one this year. This one feels different than these. I guess the page count is a little less. I'm not sure if let's just compare it in my hand here. Not sure if it's just the way that I've handled this other book, but it doesn't feel as sturdy and beefy. It feels like it opens a lot better, so I don't know. It doesn't look like they've changed the binding or anything. It also just might be that this one might have been unwrapped on the shelf, which means that, you know, everybody and their mothers had their dirty hands all over it. So there you go, is that. And then we'll do a couple of illustrations here. So there you go. The last thing I wanted to talk about was the festival that they put on every year. This year is their 4th year putting on the ELCAF Festival, ELCAF, which stands for East London Comic Arts Festival. Last year their special guest speaker was Chris Ware, and Seth, that I'm a fan of, was there as well too. Artist talks, seminars, etc. And then kind of just like a convention with booths set up. Obviously a giant NoBrow booth where you can talk to the artists and buy comics and just experience the whole thing. From the little bit of looking that I did this year, this Gillian, I believe it's this Gillian Tamaki is the featured artist. And if you are in the area, if you do live in the UK, if you are in London, I had sent a message already to Dr. Monkeybot and to La Raza, but it looks like it's really cheap to go. I believe it's just 2 days. Again, I'll put links to everything, obviously, and you can check it out for yourself. And it was about £3, I think, per day just to get in the door, which is fantastic, especially when, you know, our big convention here, I'm looking at 20 bucks just to get my sorry ass in the door. And I had a moment actually while I was looking through this. I was also just researching some other artists and little publications, and just had a sense of, because now it's around the time where all these festival announcements or little convention announcements are happening, and it just gave me a sinking feeling of, I rarely get it, but I had this moment of like, I'm in the wrong fucking city. because we just don't have. I would eat this shit up, you know, if I lived in Portland, where there's another great little convention, if I lived in London and, you know, wherever else that. Anyway, beyond that, go to check it out. Cheap to get in the door, some amazing artists if you are in the area. If you're not in the area, just browse their website. I think they're one of the places like Koyama. I think you can order right from NoBrow, but they also might give you a list of distributors on a page. So if you're in Canada, for example, or if you're in the States, I'm sure there's a listing of somewhere where it's distributed, so you don't have to order from overseas and spend all that money on the shipping, because I'm sure it's pretty hefty, especially if you order some of those magazines. Like I said, if you are in Canada, just go straight to the chapters/Indigo site, Indigo.ca, and just type in NoBrow in the search engine and it'll all come up for you. The other thing about the website is check out the previous years. They have up a short video from 13, 12, and 11, just of who was there and what the layout was and what had happened. Kind of a short 2-minute video just to give you a taste of what it was like, which I think is a great idea. So as I said, I will say it again at the end of the video. Do not hesitate with walking away from this video knowing that these are 2 books that you must pick up if you're wanting to try out NoBrow. Can't recommend these enough. I'd say stay away from these, but I mean, it depends on your taste. You know, if you really do just want a taste of what they have to offer and you only have a couple of bucks, sure, go for it, but just know that there's much more to them than this. So yeah, there you go. There's the final look at those. Thanks very much for watching. Let's hope and pray that this video works out. My fingers are crossed. Thanks, guys.